Hey everybody, what's going on? Eric here with Switch Adapted Toys, and today I'm going to be showing you how to adapt this Disneyland Bubble Blower. If you haven't checked out our Disneyland video yet, I encourage you to do so. We basically took a family vacation to Disneyland, and while we were there, we did some shopping for Switched, and we went into all the gift shops and tried to find all the toys that we could possibly Switch Adapt. We bought a bunch and we brought them home, and now we're making how-to videos teaching you how to Switch Adapt those toys. And one thing that we did that was a lot of fun was that we bought a handful of these bubble blowers and we adapted them, and then we went back to the park and we gave them out to kiddos that we found that might need a Switch Adapted toy. And if you've ever been to Disneyland before, you know that these bubble blowers are literally everywhere. And they light up and they're really cool at night, and it was just a lot of fun to be able to provide these kiddos with a bubble blower that's adapted that they could play with. And it was just fun. So I encourage you to check out that video. I'll link to it in the description below. But before we start adapting this toy, if you're new to Switch Adapted Toys or you just kind of stumbled across this video, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and our mission is to make play possible for kiddos of all abilities. We do that by creating how-to videos like this one, teaching people how to Switch Adapt toys, as well as we have files for you to 3D print your own Switch button at a fraction of the cost of what the name brand Switches are. And all our resources are completely free. So if that's something that interests you, check out our website at www.switchtoys.org. And if you like this video, if we find it helpful, make sure you hit the like button and hit subscribe to stay up to date on all our latest videos. It really does help us out in a huge way, so thank you in advance for doing that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna start by removing the bubble juice, because we're not gonna need that. And this piece is actually just trash. It's just kind of packaging to store everything. And we're gonna start by removing the screws that are in the handle of the toy. We don't need to remove any of the screws in the ball itself or the head, just here in the handle. So with all 6 screws removed, we can remove this yellow piece on the handle, and this red section will come off. And then we can remove this ring, and that will expose 2 more screws that we need to remove. And now we should be able to separate the 2 halves of the toy. So we're gonna solder our headphone jack wires to this circuit board right here, and we're gonna solder our wires to this middle point and this outside point. That will basically turn on the fan motor. And then this top, like there's 2 rows here, this bottom row and this top row. This top row, if we do the same to the middle and the outside, it'll turn on the lights. So what we're gonna try to do is we're gonna try to actually activate both of these at the same time. Now what I'm going to try to do is kind of get a glob of solder that kind of goes from one of those nodes to the other, the one that we're basically trying to join. So just kind of like that. And I've already done the other one, but just get a glob of solder to cross from that point to that point. We need to get our headphone jack wire into the toy. So we need to drill a hole in the side of this toy to get our headphone jack wire in there. And what we're actually gonna do is we're going to drill our hole through the front of this red piece that will basically go through this black piece and get in here. So we don't actually need to drill through the black piece. We're just gonna drill through the red piece, and then it'll kind of come through this hole here. You just wanna make sure you have a drill bit that's the same diameter of your headphone jack that you're using. And I'm just kind of trying to line this up so that I kind of hit right in the middle of this hole in the handle. Just like that. All right, now we can fish our headphone jack wire through the hole that we just drilled. And I'm using a mono headphone jack. Mono is definitely the way to go. You can use a stereo headphone jack, but monos are just so much easier. I really encourage you to find monos. I'll put a link in the description of the ones that we use. And before you solder your wires to your circuit board, make sure you slip the wire through the handle. Then we can solder our headphone jack wire to that glob. And you can give your wires just a little bit of a tug and just to make sure that they're secured. And now's a good time to test to just make sure that it's gonna work. So I'm gonna plug in a switch button and test it. There we go. So we got the lights on and we've got the motor running with one press of the button. So now what we need to do is we need to prevent a child from like accidentally pulling on this cord and just ripping out our connections. So in order to do that, we're gonna use a zip tie, and I'm just gonna put it around the wire on the inside of the toy. And I'm gonna kind of put it pretty close to the base here. Basically what this zip tie is gonna do is when the cord is pulled, it'll engage with the outside of the toy and prevent it from being pulled any further. So you wanna just make sure you're putting it on a place where that kind of makes sense. And I can go ahead and cut off the extra zip tie. And pro tip, use the smallest zip tie you can find. Generally like the thinner and the smaller, the better the grip on the wire. And what I also like to do is I like to add a little bit of CA glue or super glue. And I put that around the zip tie, and that basically kind of locks it into place so it doesn't like slip. And if you have some, you can use some activator spray, and that'll basically instantly dry that super glue. All right, so now we can start putting things back together. I'm just gonna make sure that that head is kind of seated back into its slot because it kind of got moved when I was working in here. And I'm gonna put the top back down. And we can put the handle back together. All right, so once we've got the handle back together, we need to put in the 2 screws that sit underneath this ring. All right, once we've got those screws in, now we need to put this ring back on, and we need to kind of put it through this red part where we've got our wire coming out first. And then hopefully your wire is long enough to allow you to get that ring over the bottom of the handle, and that can slide up. And there's a little notch on the ring that lines up with the notch here in the side. There we go. And now we can replace the red part of the handle. Pull out the extra slack on your headphone jack wire. And then you can replace the yellow ring at the bottom, and we can screw in the 6 screws. All right, so let's plug in a switch and just make sure that it still works. There we go. And just for fun, let's open up the bubble juice and just make sure that it's gonna work with bubbles. There we go. So if you liked this video or if you found it helpful, make sure you hit the like button and hit subscribe to stay up to date on all our latest videos. Switch Adaptive Toys is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and our mission is to make play possible for kiddos of all abilities. If you want to find out more about Switch Adaptive Toys, you could do so on our website at www.switchtoys.org. And if you've got a group or an organization and you want to adapt toys kind of on a bigger scale for kids in your community, you could form what we call a Switch chapter, and we kind of help walk you through that process, and you can bring Switch to your community and you can serve the kids in that way. I'll encourage you again to check out our Disneyland video. I'll put a link in the description below. And we've got a bunch of other toys that we picked up in the park, and we'll make videos for those as well. And I'll put a link to that playlist down below. Lastly, if you're interested in a Switch adapted toy, but doing it yourself just isn't your thing, we have a shop where we sell some pre-adapted toys that are ready to play with. I'll adapt them for you and send them out, and the proceeds help support what we're doing here. Basically making these videos, making this content, and providing it free to all of our users. So if you're interested in a Switch adapted toy and you don't want to do it yourself, check out our shop, and I'll put a link in the description below. Well, that's pretty much it. I'm Eric with Switch Adapted Toys, and we'll see you next time.
Switched Adapted Toys, making play possible.